this tour of Jews in the Dominican Republic. My name is Rachel Scheinerman. I'm sitting in for Mara today, who usually hosts these. I edit the print side of My Jewish Learning, but it's always a pleasure for me to get to experience these events and participate. And I am delighted to welcome our speaker today, Dr. Rabbi Yehonatan Elazar Demota. Let me just make sure we are all in before I say important things. Okay, we have a few more coming in. I don't know why Zoom takes a while to file everybody through the door, but it does, even though it's a virtual door. Okay, so just to repeat, my name is Rachel Scheinerman. I edit the print side of My Jewish Learning, and welcome to this tour of Jews in the Dominican Republic. We are so delighted to have with us today Dr. Rabbi Yehonatan Elazar Demota. Dr. Elazar Demota was born in the United States to a Dominican Jewish family, but he has lived in the Dominican Republic since 2009. He is not only a PhD and a rabbi, but in addition also a moil. He performs ritual circumcisions, and a shochet, meaning he can perform kosher slaughter, and a dayan, a Jewish judge. He has a master's in religious studies and anthropology, with a thesis that focuses on crypto Jews in the Dominican Republic, I believe, and a PhD in international law as well. So I'm really looking forward to learning from him, and I'm sure you all are too. So Dr. Elazar Demota, go ahead and get started.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for that introduction. Thank you for this invitation to this platform. It's a pleasure for me to always be able to share on the rich history of the Jews in the Dominican Republic. Here in the Dominican Republic, we have different Jewish communities from different backgrounds. And what I'm going to be focusing on today is specifically on the Sephardic community, which is part of the Jewish history that's usually left out. Most people know about the Ashkenazi Jews who came here during the time of the Shoah. And what I've done with my research is to be able to go around the country and find all the history and also document in the form of ethnography the history and the life of the Jews, of the Sephardic Jews in the Dominican Republic. So I'm going to begin the presentation, and then we'll take questions at the end. So today we'll be talking about Sephardic Jewish community in the Dominican Republic, the past, present, and our future. First thing I would like to talk about is the migrations of Caribbean Sephardim to Hispaniola. At the time when Jews came here in the colonial time period, it was called Hispaniola, which was a Spanish territory. Before that, the indigenous name in the Arawak Taino language was Quisqueya. And so this map here shows where Jews are coming from different islands in the Caribbean for business purposes, from Colombia, Venezuela, Curacao, the entire Dutch Netherlands, or the Antilles, the West Indies, also Jamaica, Cuba, Puerto Rico, and directly from Spain and Portugal. We have Jews coming from all those places, even also as far as the Ottoman Empire, when in the 1920s, we had some Jews come as well from Turkey and Greece and Syria and Lebanon. This map here shows us where most of these Jewish families settled. We can see in the south, Bani, Aswa, Santo Domingo, the capital. We have also in the east, in El Ceibo, Atomayor. In the north, Santiago, Puerto Plata, Montecristi. These are very important places, and most of these places are on the coast. That's something very important in Sephardic culture, to live on the coast, to be able to get on a boat and travel somewhere else to do business. So a little bit about the families. Who were these Jews? Which families did they belong to? So we have Enriquez, Machena, López Peña, Cohen, Pardo, de Lemos, Pereira, Crasto, León Leiva, Da Costa Gómez, Señor Sasso, Uriel Maduro, Naar, Da Mota, Namías, Jesulún, Ricardo Pinto, Capriles, Penso, Vidal, and Caravaggio. These are some of the families that came to the Dominican Republic. And here's a picture of some of the tombstones. Here on the left, this is written in French. It's in the year 1826. The reason why it's written in French is because at that time, the Haitians who spoke French, they took control of the entire island in 1822 to 1844, when it was Dominican Republic independence. So this Jew who was born in Amsterdam, Jacob Pardo, it says here he was native of Amsterdam at the age of 45 years old. He died on the 6th of December, 1826. This is the oldest tombstone that we have in our records. These tombstones are found in what's called La Independencia, Ciudad Trujillo, which is the oldest cosmopolitan cemetery in Santo Domingo City. Originally, this was a Jewish cemetery, but then it became cosmopolitan. And it had, according to historical records, it had a mehizah. So it had a division between the Jewish tombstones and then the non-Jewish tombstones. And after some time in the 1900s, the mehizah was taken out. And what you're going to see here, the pictures are all the tombstones of the Jews that are on let me see what side, on the west side of the cemetery. So we can see here Jacopardo, Rafael Namias de Crasto. Here's another two from the Curiel family. And these are early 1900s. Moisés de Crasto, Rebecca Namias de Crasto. This DC is Da Costa Gomez. This family is interesting because they came from Curacao. Some of them lived in or settled in a city called Asua, and others were in the capital. The Da Costa Gomez family is a family of Kohanim. They're of the priestly lineage. On their tombstones in Jamaica and in Curacao, they have hands on there to show that they are of the priestly lineage. Josefa Levi, another Curiel. This HP is Hipólito Pereira de Curiel. Now a little bit about the independence. I mentioned earlier that the island was under control of the Haitians for 22 years, 1822 until 1844. And what happens in 1844 is that there was one of the fathers of the independence named Juan Pablo Duarte y Diez. According to our history, he was of Converso family from Sevilla in Spain, and he is one of the fathers of independence. He wants the Dominican Republic to be an independent, let's say an independent nation from Haiti. And he was exiled. And when he was exiled, he went to Curacao. Most historians will tell you that he went to Sosua and he spoke to his cousins, but they don't go further. I have gone further in my research. What I have found is that his cousins are the Sephardic Jews that are in Curacao, who are part of the community Mikveh Israel Emmanuel. And what he does there is he speaks to them and he gathers money, resources, and political influence. And one of the things that he does there is he contacts David Levy Leon, who is the wealthiest Jew in Jamaica. And David Levy Leon gives a lot of money to raise funds for ammunition and guns to be able to fight against the Haitians and declare independence. This happens in 1844. David Levy-Leon. Then, after the independence, there was a group of Dominicans now, as a country that's independent from Haiti. There's a group of Dominicans that wants to annex the new country with Spain. And of course, the Sephardic Jews who are living there, they had a bad history with Spain, and they want nothing to do with Spain. So what happens at that moment, these two brothers from the Marchena family, whose parents came from Curacao, they got together and they fought against this annexation with Spain. And this monument here that you see is in the city of Santiago. This was built in 2007 to memorialize the restoration, la restauración, which tells us that the Dominicans who were against the annexation fought for the independence once again, now not from Haiti, but from Spain. And this is called la restauración. This happened in 1865. And we can thank the Marchena family for gathering the funds and political influence once again to declare independence. Francisco Enriquez y Carvajal. He was a president of the Dominican Republic, and he was a Sephardic Jew. He was doctor, lawyer, writer, politician, and his children, specifically Pedro Enriquez y Carvajal, was an educator, and there's a university named after him in the capital city, Santo Domingo. And he's important for us because it shows to what extent Sephardic Jews arrived to in the Dominican Republic history. These Jews who founded this community, Congregación Israelita, Israelite congregation in Santo Domingo capital in the late 19th century, in the early 20th century, they were led by Rafael Namias de Crasco, who was also from Curacao. We've seen some of the tombstones of that family. He served as cantor and he performed marriages. There are some records in the early 1900s that show that he performed marriages and then he registered them civilly and they were accepted. So he set a precedent where Jewish marriages, religious marriages, were accepted by the civil registry. And so his name appears on those signatures. Then we move a little bit forward. During the time of the Shoah, the Holocaust, in 1939, there was a rabbi from Germany who escaped Germany and went to the Netherlands. And from the Netherlands, he saw the announcement that the Dominican Republic, under the leadership of President Trujillo, that Jews were going to be accepted to come to this country. And this rabbi answered to the call and he came all the way to the Dominican Republic from the Netherlands. And when he came here, one of the first things he noticed walking on the street was he noticed someone greeted him and said, "Señor, usted es judío. Sir, are you Jewish?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Me too." And that person who he spoke with was one of the Sephardic Jews. And he became acquainted with the Sephardic families that were gathering in Congregación Israelita, and he eventually became their rabbi. He wrote extensively about these Jewish families, and they're recorded in the University of North Carolina, where his memoirs are written, they're recorded, they're registered, and he talks about his correspondence with some of these members, specifically the Lopez Peña family. He left to the United States in 1946, and we can see his correspondences between Sephardic Jews and himself all the way until 1959. Between 1959 and 2009, the descendants of these Sephardic Jews had no rabbinic leadership. So this fulfills the historical part of this community. Here we see a picture of one of the prayer books. You can see it's written in English. It was brought from London by way of Curacao. according to the minhag of the Spanish Portuguese Jews. This is the prayer book for the Yom HaKippurim, the Day of Atonement. And here we have a letter written in Spanish, written by Rebecca Salas Baiz, who wrote a letter to Henry the Rabbi Uko, and she dedicated this book that belonged to her father to the rabbi. Her father was Samuel Curiel. And so she gave him this book, also another book, which was a Mishneh Torah. I don't have a picture of that here. And that shows us a little bit about the legal anthropology of the community. So they studied Mishneh Torah, so mainly the Rambam's teachings, as opposed to other legal texts of halakha. So let's talk about what's going on today with this community. In 2009, I arrived to the country. I moved. I had been visiting since 2007 for a period of 2 years until I moved in 2009. And one of the first things that I did, which brought me actually to the country, was to go around the northern coast of the country, finding all these families, Pereira, Martinez, Lopez Peña, Naar, all these families, and I would go and shecht chickens for them, because I realized during my travels previously that most of these families had lost a lot of Jewish practices, even though they had Jewish consciousness of their grandparents. And so I arrived and I started my work as a shochet in the country. After about 3-4 months, I realized that there was a greater need. And that greater need led me to then build a community in the capital. Here's a picture of some of the members of this community. The community was Bet Midrash Sephardic, Nidhei Israel, de la República Dominicana. And what I did during the 4 years that I lived in the capital city, I organized this community and I educated these Jews from the simplest or basic tenets of the Jewish tradition: kasherut, Shabbat, tahara mishpacha, everything from scratch. I taught them how to pray from the Hebrew book, from the prayer book, and how to read from the Torah. Among some of those students, some of them became rabbis. Some of them today became rabbis, and I'll show you some pictures and talk to you a little bit later about that. Just showing some pictures of our communal members. We received a lot of donations throughout those years from congregations in California, from all over the world, really. And we received a lot of literature in Hebrew and Spanish for our community. This was our first wedding in the Dominican Republic between Yoel and Leah. That was in 2012. And here is a picture of some of my rabbinic students. To my right is Rabbi Gadiel, and next to me on the left, there are 2 rabbis now, Yosef Cohen and Rabbi Netanel. And so they are living here in the country at this moment, and they are leading their respective congregations. I want to show now a video of this congregation. Let's see here. So the video that I'm going to show you was taken by a non-Jew who used to frequent our community. He descends from Jews, but not halachically. And so he would come to our community for various occasions, and he would record the services and everything else. So I'm going to share the screen now. Let's see here.
ויתה ויסבח פולקנה ויקרא משיחה ויכול ויום נכון דחיי דכל בית ישראל ובאגן המזרח קרי ואמרו אמן יש מחרב המרח לעלמן בעלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתבאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתדר ויתעלה ויתעלל שמחת קודשה בריחו לעילה מכל ברכתה שירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה דמירה מעגלה ואמרו אמן תתקבל זרותיכון ומועתיכון לכל בית ישראל קודם אבוהון תשמעיה וענה ואמרו אמן יש المهرب من שמיים חיים ושבעה וישועה ונחמה ושזבה ורפואה וגאולה וסליחה וכפרה וריח וסללה מכל עמו ישראל אמרו אמן עושה שלום במרומיו ובחסון עשה שלום עלינו ועבור עמו ישראל ואמרו אמן. Página 50 Salmo.
So that's just something short. The video is longer. I'm not going to show the whole thing for you to see of our community. I will now continue the presentation. Let's see here, share. Okay. So now we're going to move to La Romana. La Romana is on the east side of the island. There's another Sephardic community there, which is led by Rabbi Gadiel Mota. And this is on the map. You can see where La Romana is. It has its own airport, and it's very close to where a lot of tourists frequent, which is called Casa de Campo or Punta Cana, Bávaro Beach. I'm sure many of you, if you've gone to any of the resorts on the eastern part of the island, many people are familiar with that. And in fact, many Jewish tourists who visit the country, they go to Punta Cana and they find out about the community in La Romana. So I'm going to show you now a bit about La Romana. So this is the website of the community. You can write that down or visit us later to see some information. And this is a picture that was taken in 2013 of the minyan of this community. Something interesting about this community is the majority of the members descend from the same grandmother. So they're all family members, the majority of them. So this is something very unique to this community. I will show you now a video of this community and its building. So this video is going to be a short tour of what the place where we pray at looks like, and a little bit about the structure. Let's share the screen. Okay. The Hal, the Sefer Torah, and the Teba, with the Spanish-Portuguese tradition. This is very small. This is where this community prays at. The covering for the Torah scroll was made by one of the members of the community. Also, the Teba was also, or Bima, you know that term, was built by communal members. We have a master woodworker in the community who builds everything made out of wood. The Echad also was made specifically for Sabbath. Okay, so that's that. We'll continue with our presentation. Screen. So here we have some pictures of the two members who worked on the teba and making it from scratch. It was a lot of work. This was a final product. You can see on the right side, there's a menorah, a Hanukkah, that was also made by the same members. That's from the side. And here's a picture of Rabbi Gadiel Mota. He's the leader of this congregation. He's also one of my students. And he's also a shofet. I trained him in the laws of Shehita years ago. So he provides all the kasher meats for that community. Here's a picture, I think it was 2015. And these guys in this picture, they're now in their late 20s. One of them passed away tragically 2 years ago. I don't want to get into that. It's a very sad story, but the community was very heavily affected because of that murder. This picture was taken 2 weeks ago in La Romana, and as you can see, if you look closely, most of them have similar features, facial features, and that's because they are from the same family. They descend from the same grandmother. Now we're moving on to another Sephardic community, which is let's say the most recent community in the Dominican Republic, Bet Deborah, Machon Moreshet Sefarad. This center is sponsored by a Jewess. Her name is Deborah Veronica Freitas. She's living now in the United States, in Virginia, but she frequents the country. She was born in the Dominican Republic. And one of the things, she actually put her resources together to build this center in very close to the city of Bani, which is southwest Dominican Republic. And here's a picture of where it's located on the map. And what she does at the center is very interesting. You're going to see the pictures now. This is what it looks like on the outside. It's very identifiably Jewish. And this is some pictures when it was in the process of being constructed. And here's a picture of today. You can actually see Deborah in one of the pictures on the right side. She has on a blue shirt and her glasses are hanging from her shirt. What she does here is she feeds the local community and hands out medicine to the people who are here. Now, one of the things I should mention about the city Bani, where this congregation or the center is located, is that I wrote an entire master's thesis about this. Most of the people who live in Bani descend from Jews, conversos, who came from Spain, Portugal, Canary Islands, and France in the 1700s, 17th century and then 1700s, and they founded a city called Bani. They marry amongst themselves. They don't marry outside, and that's their way of preserving their ethnic and cultural tradition, identity, and in this region, Deborah built this center in order to be able to cater to these children mainly who don't have resources, and also provides education for them as well. So currently, one of the things for the future is we want to created an entire curriculum for those kids to be educated in the Jewish tradition. This picture, we're arriving to the end of our presentation. This picture was taken about a month ago. The two gentlemen to my left and right are two of the rabbis. One of them, the one on my left, Rabbi Netanel. You may have seen him in many of the pictures. He received his semicha from Torah V'Ha'ava, Rabbi Chaim Ovadia. And the rabbi to my right, he is currently a student with me. He's studying the laws of Dayanut. And he received his semicha, Yore, from Rabbi, what's his name? Ansel Salamon, who is living half the time in Canada and comes to the Dominican Republic and lives in Punta Cana and caters mainly to the Jews coming as tourists. And these two rabbis, together with my efforts, we put together the first Bet Din in the Dominican Republic. So we have a Bet Din. And what we're doing is we're hearing out cases of Jewishness. We are listening, also giving, counsel to people who need halachic counsels if they do business with other Jews. Also, we issue out kasher certificates for different companies that want to be certified for kashrut. And we also perform divorces, and we also certify marriages. So that's what we're doing at this moment. And this picture was taken at our first activity, which was a divorce. So not a positive thing, but that was the occasion. Here's a picture of the civil registry of this Bet Din. It's called Bet Din Tzedek de la República Dominicana. So this is the end of our presentation. Visit our website. Feel free to donate or share with all your friends. On the website, you're going to see all various materials, articles, videos, books, names of different rabbis and who are part of the history of our community, Spanish Portuguese Jews. And you will be able to catch up with the courses that we are offering at the moment. And I thank you for listening to this presentation. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. Such an honor and pleasure to have you here. And we have lots of questions. So this is wonderful that we have a good amount of time for us to dig into. I wonder if you could start off by actually telling us a little bit about Susa, the city, and if you could talk a little bit about the history, the very specific history there regarding the Holocaust.
All right. So in 1939, as I said earlier, Trujillo, who was the president at the time, he was ready to issue 100,000 visas for Jews who were suffering from the massacre in Europe. Unfortunately, only 600 Jews came. And the reason why only 600 came was because at that time, media was through newspaper. And only those Jews who were reading the news and found out about this call were able actually came. So there were Jews mainly from Austria, Germany, Czechoslovakia, Netherlands, and some even came from all the way from Shanghai, from Japan, or from China, sorry. They went all the way to China, and from there they saw the news about the Dominican Republic, and most of these Jews had no idea where this country was, what it was about, what language, they didn't know anything. They saw in the newspaper that Trujillo was granting visas for Jews to arrive. And so 600 Jews came, and the president gave these families 80 acres of land per family, and he gave them that whole region that's called Sosua in the province of Puerto Plata, in the northern part of the island. And if you go to Sosua today, you're going to see there's a synagogue, there's a cemetery, there's a school that was a Jewish school years ago, and now it's a private school, not necessarily Jewish anymore. And they had a shochet, they had rabbis. Most of the more religious, or let's say religious of Torah observant Jews, they left to New York, or some went to Israel. And those that stayed continued their services according to the Reform rites. And if you go there to Sosua today, you're going to find many descendants of those families, the Katz family, the Koch family, the Newman family. They even had the previous mayor was Ilana Newman, a Jewess from that community. And she made a monument that stands right in front of the beach. And that monument is in her name. And it has two flags, the Dominican flag and the flag of the state of Israel. We were just there last week. My daughter was visiting the country from the States, and we took her to go see. It was her first time being here. And it was a memorable experience to be able to see all of this history. Now, what else do I want to say about Sosua? There's not much activity in this synagogue. There's a rabbi that visits from Miami, I think twice a year. And that's what's going on there now. Yes. Something else about this community and that time period. The first country in Latin America that voted for the acceptance and the approval of the state of Israel was the Dominican Republic. With that, I want to tell you that this country, we love Jews. All these issues that are happening now in the United States and in Europe against Jews, we don't experience any of that in this country. So you're welcome to come and join us, and we will drink rum together and dance merengue.
That sounds like a good invitation if I've ever heard one before. Thank you so much, Rob. Richard had a question that went, he basically says that the expulsion from Spain had been 300 years before the Dominican Republic ended.
Oh, it got cut off.
Danny, did we lose you? Okay, I'm sorry. We are going to try and get Danny back, but let me, Dr. Elazar Demota, let me share another question with you.
Okay.
Mike wants to know, what is the earliest dates of Jews coming to Hispaniola, including Columbus's crew?
Oh, that's a very controversial topic, but I wrote a bit about that in an encyclopedia entry that hasn't been published yet. It's going to be published sometime this year or next year in a encyclopedia called Religions of Latin America. And my entry is about conversos in the Nassau. And there's a lot of documentation that shows that there were conversos coming to Hispaniola with Christopher Columbus and also after. So in the 1500s, they're coming in and out. And they are, as Catholics, nominal Catholics, but they are Jews. And we know that because they use aliases, they use different names, and they're connected to the Jewish communities in Italy and all the way as far as the Ottoman Empire. So we have those records. I documented those or I recorded those references in that entry for that encyclopedia. So look out for that sometime the end of this year or next year. It was going to be with Routledge Publishing.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, please.
We do. Okay. Danny, while you disappeared, we asked about the earliest Jews, crypto Jews to arrive.
Got it. Thank you. A couple other questions that and please correct me if we hit them already. Rabbi, we wanted to know if you could go into specifics about how many congregations are in the Dominican right now, how big are they? Is Chabad available right now, have a presence? Okay. And yeah, if you could talk a little bit about if there's, I mean, I know you're a shofet, but are there any kosher restaurants there? Just kind of like how many Jews live on the island, just a picture of, the communities today.
Demographics, Jewish demographics. So we have about 5 congregations here in the entire country. In La Romana, we have 1. In Sosua, we have 1, so that's 2. In Santiago, we have one, and then the others are in the capital, Santo Domingo. That includes Chabad, that's there. Chabad came in the country in 2008, led by Rabbi Shimon Perlman. And so they have their own thing going on. They cater mainly to the tourists who come to the country and to Santo Domingo. And each one of these congregations have about anywhere between 50 and 100 members, each one of them. So with that said, there are about 1,000. Oh, there's one more congregation in Santo Domingo, but this congregation is not so active anymore. The building is there, and they only get together, I think, for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippurim. And whenever they get together, there are about 600. So all in all, those Jews who are affiliated to one of these congregations in general or total amount, I would say about 1,000 Jews who are connected to one of these congregations in total. But through my research going around the country as an anthropologist, I know that there are tens of thousands of Jews in this country, halachic Jews. Now, why do I say that? The reason why I say that is because of the history of this country, and also the way that people live in the rural areas from, let's say, up to about 100 years ago. Many Jews that came here and they continue to marry amongst themselves, like in the case of Bani. The case study that I did in Bani is actually a microcosm of the entire country in various rural towns. If you go to La Vega, San Francisco Macorís, Santiago, Puerto Plata, you're going to see very similar things happening. And what that means is that if there were an active, let's say, kiruv or outreach to these families about their Jewishness, some of them might unite to the local congregations. And most of the time, many of them know that they're Jews. They say, oh yeah, mi abuelos, my grandparents, but they are not aware of the halakhic ramifications of having a Jewish grandmother per se. So as I explained to Rachel earlier, that when Spain and Portugal started to announce that they were going to give the passports and citizenship for being descendants of Spanish Portuguese Jews, I had many people writing to me every week. I had, just about 5 to 10 emails per week from different people, different Dominicans that are in New York or in Europe or living in the Dominican Republic, contact me about how they could acquire these citizenships. In terms of kosher restaurants, there are no kosher restaurants here like we see in other countries. What there are, though, are, for example, let's say kosher kitchens. We have that. So if you go to La Romana, for example, they have an Airbnb, 2 rooms where tourists can stay there, and they have their kosher kitchen, and their chef will cook for those tourists that stay there. Or any tourists that come to visit, they will cook for them. So as I said earlier, Rabbi Gadiel, one of my students, he's a shochet. He will slaughter the meat. He does goats, lambs, and chicken. If you go to the capital, similar thing is happening. Some of the Jewish families, they will cater to Jews who are visiting, and they will cook for them. If you come to Santiago, my wife is a chef, so she will cook up a storm for you. And we do this all the time. We're having a bat mitzvah in about a month, coming with families coming from the United States, and my wife is going to cater for this whole event for over 50 people who are coming. So in Sosua in the north, there's nothing going on there that I know of. So if you visit there, you have to prepare beforehand.
Thank you so much, Rav. Another question that had come up, if you could speak to us a little bit about your personal Jewish journey, a little bit more about how you were raised and what kind of household, and maybe
Yes.
perhaps.
Okay, so I was born in Miami, Florida.
What inspired you to do the work you're doing?
Yes. I was born in Miami, Florida. My parents migrated from the Dominican Republic by way of Puerto Rico in the 1970s. They came to Miami in 1979. I was born in 1981, so now you know my age. And we were raised in a traditional Sephardic home. What that means is we kept Shabbat, we ate kasher in our house. We were not really a synagogue going family. Our Judaism was mainly in our house. And we knew as kids, my siblings and I, we knew that we were different than everybody else because when Friday came, we had to come home to eat. When our neighbors wanted to invite us for barbecues or cookouts or any of these things, we were not invited. We didn't go. Our parents said, no, you're not going to eat anything there. So this is how we were raised. When I went to college, my first degree was in aerospace mechanical engineering at University of Miami. And I came across Hillel, and I started to attend other activities on campus. And later on in 2000, so that was 1999. In 2003, 2003, I married according to Jewish law, and my wife became pregnant at the time. I was 22 years old and disoriented and wanted to have a Jewish family in the community. So we moved to the community, and there I was educated by Rabbi Yosef Ben Arosh, who was from Morocco, of blessed memory, passed away in 2011. I studied with him for 4 years in rabbinics, and he trained me in everything, all the basics and more than that. From there, I studied with other rabbis in Miami, and I went to Israel and studied as well in different yeshivot and different rabbis, one-on-one and also in groups. When I came to the Dominican Republic in 2006 was the first time I came to the country at the age of 25. It was for a burial of one of my aunts. And when I came to the country at that time, I felt the sense of home in the sense of that I was missing something because I had visited previously when I was 6 years old. And now 19 years later, I felt like I missed out on all of this experience. And I wanted to know what Jews were doing in the Dominican Republic. When I came in 2006, I went around the country. Then later on in 2007, I visited 8 times that year. I was here like every month, I think, that year. And when I went around and I saw that there were no Jewish institutions, there were Jews, but no Jewish institutions. I remember in the hotel room in Sosua, after speaking with the clerk, and I asked her, what do Jews eat here? Is there any kasher restaurant? We have a museum, we have a synagogue, but we have no food available. She said, no, Jews here eat everything. And I said, everything? She said, yeah, everything. And she started to name some of the plates, and I felt this pain in my heart. And in my hotel room, I made a vow. I said to Hashem, if you allow me to learn the laws of Shechitah, I will come to this country and I will provide kasher food for the Jews here. And a year and a half later, I came back and I fulfilled my vow. And then I stayed here for 4 years. And so ever since after 2013, then I was coming in and out of the country. And a year ago, I came back to the country permanently now. So that's what inspired me.
Thank you so much. It's a really just incredible and inspiring story, and feeling very privileged to hear it and share it with everyone here today. Another question came up about DNA, that now that we have that technology, the question was specifically, was there a lot of intermarriage, either with slaves or others of African ancestry or with indigenous people of Hispaniola? Has the population undergone any DNA testing to compare with Sephardic Jews, perhaps in America, that might have a European background?
Yes, very good question. So I speak about that in my book, the ethnography that I wrote on the Bani, you can find that on my website, bemidrashbmelazar.org. You will find that. I have it on Amazon. And there have been studies. There hasn't been like an exhaustive study of all the Jews in Dominican Republic on the genetics. Mainly like some people here and there who have reported their DNA through Family Tree DNA, which is their laboratories in Houston. They have the largest Jewish database in the world. And so my study is specifically in Bani. And in that study, what we can see is the following. We can see that 70% of that population descends from 6 women. 70% descends from 6 women. That means that there was a high level of marrying, of inbreeding amongst themselves. And a lot of Banilejos don't even know that they're related to each other. And I have their genealogies. So somewhere around the 7th or 8th, between the 7th and 10th generation, all these people are related to each other. They're all like distant cousins from each other. And what the DNA shows is they have European ancestry, Middle Eastern ancestry. There's some also North African ancestry from Canary Islands. There's no indigenous ancestry. That's very interesting in that particular population. The studies that have been performed on the Taino populations here, there was a cemetery that was unearthed some time ago, and those mitochondrial DNA haplogroups are from groups C and D. And so that shows us specifically that the Tainos here in this island, they were from those 2 matriarchs, C and D, those 2 haplogroups. Within the database of Bani and others that I've seen, we don't see that. Now, there are others who came by way of Puerto Rico, and what you see there is haplogroup A. In the haplogroup A, there are variants. Some come from East Asia or from Siberia in Russia that went to Western Europe and then came here. And others are from perhaps the Taino population of Puerto Rico that then migrated to Hispaniola or Dominican Republic. So in terms of the slaves, there's no doubt about that. My PhD was specifically about the halakha on slavery and slave trade. Portuguese Jews that went to the New World, they took slaves, and their slaves became Jews eventually. Sometime around the 17th and 18th century in Amsterdam, the community stopped doing this. So they were no longer marrying their slaves or converting them according to law. But in the New World, there's literature by Professor Dr. Aviva Ben-Ur, who's done extensive research on the case of Suriname. In her work, she shows that all the way into the 19th century, Portuguese Jews in Suriname were still marrying with their slaves. So in this case, women who became Jewesses according to halakha, and then they would have their children with them. So this is a pattern that we see happening in Venezuela, in Colombia, in Curacao, in Jamaica, Barbados, and you can see that in my PhD. I have a copy here. It's not published yet, but this was the original dissertation title. You can find it in the University of Amsterdam depository, their website. You can find it under that title, The Sound Legal Consciousness.
Thank you so much, Rob. This is unbelievably, and yeah, a lot of people are commenting how important this work is. And I guess I know we're coming to the end of our time here. I'm curious what your vision is for the
What my
future
vision is?
when it comes to working with people with crypto Jewish background and kind of welcoming back and helping people return to the faith all over Latin America, not just in the Dominican Republic. I know it's a long journey.
What my vision is, I think when I open up the Torah and I read Deuteronomy chapter 4, there it says very clearly, there's a prophecy written there, and also in Deuteronomy chapter 29, Perashat Nisabim. And what we see there is all of this diaspora, this exile of Jews, was already prophesied long time ago that it was going to happen. And so my vision is to be an instrument of that return, which is spoken of in those prophecies. That's who I am. That's my life goal.
Well, thank you very much. Rachel, I don't know if you want to have any closing words. And I know people were asking if this was going to be on YouTube. We're going to speak to Rav Yonatan and see if that's possible to have this recording up so people could watch it again. So much information came out. And actually, if you wouldn't mind just saying your website again, Rabbi, so those can follow up with you.
So BM Eleazar, ELEAZAR.org. BeMidrashEleazar.org. Everything's there. I have podcasts, articles, books, videos, everything. If you want to come visit us, write me a message. We will receive you.
Thank you, Rabbi Dr. Elazar Demota, for all that you do and taking the time to teach us today. I have just put a link to your website into the chat for folks who would like to explore it and be in touch with you and learn more. You can also contact us at My Jewish Learning at the email address community@myjewishlearning.com if you would like to be in touch with us. I regret that I did not add rocket scientist to your bio at the beginning of this tour. I missed that detail. Maybe less relevant to this research, but amazing nonetheless. Thank you, everybody, for your thoughtful participation and your questions. And yes, we will upload a recording of this event to YouTube, to the My Jewish Learning YouTube channel. That will happen in the next day or so. And I believe my colleague Mira is on the call. She knows better than me, but I believe that the follow-up email may even have a link to it directly, so you don't have to go find it. So thank you so much to all of you, and especially to our presenter. And it was lovely touring with you.
Gracias a todos. Thank you to everyone.
Okay. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.